Hi, Anne. Uh-oh, not hearing you. And hello, everyone. Ivana Taylor here, and I want to welcome you to the Monday edition of Bizapalooza Chat. I am so excited because as the year is coming down to a close, it is time to start seriously thinking about your content for 2018. So in order to help us do that, I have brought my dear friend and colleague, fellow influencer, Anne Smarty. You can follow her on Twitter at SEO Smarty. You can also follow the Tweet Chat on Twitter. Just follow hashtag Bizapalooza Chat. So I am going to hand it right over to my friend Anne. Hi, Anne, and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am so happy that you're here because I have been working on my content calendar. I get lots of guest post requests, but even I get stuck around content. And even though we're DIY marketers here, I'm pretty clear that no matter how you slice it, you are never on your own. So, Anne, before we get really started about this, if you could just do me a favor, because we all know you as an SEO expert, but you've got a couple other things going on, and you're an expert in collaborative content as well. So kind of bridge that gap for us.
Thanks again for having me. And oh my gosh, I'm in the spotlight. So when I started learning SEO, that was about 11 years ago. I started a blog, my very first blog, which is now still available as seosmarty.com, not as active as it used to be, but it's still there. And the huge problem that I saw was that it's very hard to stand out. As a blogger, you have to be everywhere. You have to be building your authority, your expertise, and your community for months and years to be available to see any feedback from your readers, to see anything from people who like following you, to build any name to actually achieve any results. And it's very, very demotivational. You get frustrated very easily. You quit your blog very fast, much faster than you could achieve your results. And from what a huge opportunity that I saw then was that I could expand my readership by writing for other people. So that was my big thing. And I started from small blogs. I started writing for them for free just because I wanted to hear from people, something that I couldn't see from my own blog. And from there, I decided, hey, there is a huge opportunity for people like me. They want to write for someone. And then that's when I started my Blogist, my very first community. It was I guess 8 years ago when I started it. And people loved it. People loved writing for someone else. People loved writing for someone for already established blogs and finally see someone commenting, tweeting, sharing on Facebook. And that thing picked up very fast. From there, I realized that there is another gap that I should be filling, is that there are so many blogs that are 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and they feel alone, the bloggers, because there is not much going on their own little blogs. They get stuck very easily. They don't know how to stand out. They don't know where to go to get help. And that's when I started my blog U, my another community that helps newbie bloggers to move forward. The slogan of that site is "You're not alone." You don't have to be established to join and ask for help and get that help. You can ask for ideas. You can ask for new angles for your content. You can ask for anything to basically get heard and stand out in the crowd of other bloggers, to find your voice, basically. You can also use that site to ask for interview help, to suggest, to connect you to established people in your industry. You can ask for the interview, feature in the podcast, in the video, ask for design help, branding help, anything that's about your blog, you can ask for help there. And there is the third site that I'm also co-founded. It's called Viral Content Bee. When you have that content built and you know that it's great content and you're proud of it, what happens next is that you have to get people share it on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and StumbleUpon, and any other platform. But those 4 we support at Viral Content Bee at this point. And again, you lack those valuable connections. You have to somehow encourage people to share your content and somehow build that traffic and community. And that's what Viral Content is about. It's about collaborative sharing. You can join it and basically have other people share your content on those social media networks for free. All the 3 sites are free, and you can join them and enjoy the feeling of community that would motivate you and encourage to move forward.
Wow. How do you, okay, so I have to ask, it's all free. We love free for sure. How do you support yourself? How do you support these efforts?
Of all those 3 communities, Viral Content Bee is the only one that has the pro membership option. It's mostly about more support than we can afford to give free accounts, and it's mostly about people who have loads of content on a weekly basis. So mostly those are for higher end businesses and agencies who promote other people's content on their behalf. That's a little bit of my income. I also have a full-time job at Internet Marketing Ninjas as a brand manager, and now I also their high-level analyst, both in SEO and social media marketing. And I also do a little bit of consulting and services too. So I feel good in that in that perspective.
You're like super woman. And I think I love that you do this. And I know I do this, and a lot of friends do this. You know, we do the best we can to make money where we can, but the real joy comes from supporting other folks.
So true. And I enjoy connecting people. I think that's something I'm good at. And let's face it, that's how I build my own connections too. And that's how I'm able to find clients, leads, enjoy my life when I don't have to advertise my services. I've never done that. I've never asked for a client in my life. They all come to me because they know me thanks to my being there and providing free help.
That's wonderful. So let's really dig into collaborative. Talk about this. What is collaborative content exactly? What are all the different ways that one can collaborate to create content?
At my blog U, we think about that very loosely. Collaborative content can be any content that you get help for. For example, you can ask for an idea, or you can ask our community to provide favorite tools, and you can use that list in your article. You may credit those who contributed those favorite tools, or you may not. That's up to you. But it's in any form or shape, and it's getting help from someone else to create content. We even have at my blog we even have a proofreading option where you upload your article and invite editors to, or just members, established members who have any expertise in that topic, and ask, hey, how do I make this article better? Do you have an idea? Do you think that's structured well? Do you think there are too many mistakes that I have to address? So all that stuff is collaborative content. But there are also collaborative content projects. That's something that you do. For example, you invite an expert in your industry to provide a quote, to say what they think about the topic, or you create a survey and you send to a number of experts in your industry and ask to answer those questions, and then you use that survey results in your content. So there are lots of ways to collaborate on content. You can invite an expert for a video interview or podcast interview. You can even do what we do on viral content, be weekly Twitter chats, where we invite one expert a week to answer 5 questions, and then we turn that Twitter conversation in an article, in a weekly expert article on our blog. So there are lots of ways to collaborate and create collaborative content projects.
I really like that. I love the fact of what you said. You're not alone. And I think that if you're a small business owner, maybe you're a marketing, talk a little bit about the community that's there. Who are the different folks that are there that are part of your collaboration community, both on sharing as well as on creating the content?
At my blog, mostly people are bloggers. And I would love to have more small business owners there, but let's face it, they don't have that much time on there to actually help someone for free. And that's another problem to address. But that aside, those are mostly bloggers that help each other for free. They help to get help next time they ask. So it's mutual collaboration. At Viral Content Bee, we have all kinds of folks there, starting from agencies, like I say, those who don't want to promote their own content, but they get paid to increase exposure to their clients' content. We have small businesses who have business blogs on their sites and want that more attention, more shares, more exposure to that content. And of course, we have bloggers who create content on a regular basis, and they want more shares outside of their immediate social media circles.
So one of the things we talked about, I want to dig deep a little bit on this social sharing, because I think we definitely want folks to understand, like you and I were talking about a little bit earlier, we're talking about authentic sharing of good content. You have certain, requirements might be a little too hard a word, but criteria for who would be a good member and what kind of content you should have and how the sharing works.
Yes, we do moderate viral content, be content, pre-moderate. So you go there, you create an account, and you upload your first project, and it goes through moderation queue. And we do have quality standards because, let's face it, no good, authentic social media influencers will want to use a platform if there is only promotional content there. So with that said, we don't allow promoting homepages. We do ask for actual content, be it an article, infographic, video, something informational. We ask that a person who clicks that link needs to get some value without signing up, without logging into anything, without clicking any ads, without sharing. So they need to get some value from your page from right there without doing anything extra. That's the most important requirement, because social media users are lurkers. They're not ready to buy, and they probably are not looking to buy at this point. They want some information to to get some value from. We don't allow promotional press releases, giveaways, unless that's something nonprofit and charity. We don't allow artificial likes, tweets to landing pages of business product pages. So basically it's content. You need to have an article that talks about not just you, not just your product, but about some concept, about some event in your category. And we do support lots of topics, so it's not just SEO. That we have a very powerful real estate micro community there, a very powerful business, small business, retail, all of those categories. That's not just technology and social media.
That's great. Oh, and that prompts another question. So, how important is it, Anne, that you're in a community of people in the same industry as you? What are some, versus being in a part of a community of people from a variety of different industries?
It's good to have a little bit of everything. It's not just way back when I just started my blog. I did a very popular blog post on the value of going beyond your immediate industry to get ideas of how things happen outside of your box. But being part of the community is huge because that's how you get to know your audience, even your competitors. That's how you get connected to influencers who can influence your buyers' decisions. That's how you can get some free help in sharing, or you can get people defend you if there is any reputation crisis, for example. So that's being part of the community and building loyalty through that is important for more reliable position of your business.
So let's talk a little bit about a content collaboration process. I think I have to admit that it's sort of like I'm winging collaboration. If I get the idea that I want to collect quotes or whatever, I'm going to do that. But I think inside of something I've read from you, you talked about a collaboration process. Can you share a little bit about that and how that would work?
Yes, from the very first step, and that's something I've been talking at conferences on too. The very first step is to understand your goals. And your goal is not that piece of content that you're working on. The real goal is the relationship with people you collaborate with. And the content is just the medium, because that's a very powerful way to get people work with you or help you promote your website. So once you have the right goal, which is connecting to people in your industry and maybe neighboring industries too, you are good to go. So you have to have that goal from step one, because otherwise everything else will go wrong. You reach out, you find basically people who you think would provide value to your content in any form or shape. They can, like I say, a very good example of collaborative content is Moz's search engine rankings, where they reached out to hundreds of influencers, but they didn't feature every answer. They created graphs featuring those answers and organizing them very nicely, and they had a separate page crediting everyone who participated. So you identify those influences, which is the first step. You make sure you organize those connections very well, because you want to reach out to them once your content goes live too, and you want to keep connecting to them. I do Twitter lists. You always add a separate Twitter list with everyone who wanted to participate, to make sure I'll keep an eye on them after everything is finished. So you reach out to influencers. I usually do email. I ask for introductions on LinkedIn if I have some common connections. I follow up on Twitter. Just don't be too aggressive, but try to be very human and introduce yourself, your business, and what the goal of the project is. After that, you actually send the questions or ask your request for whatever you're working on. Set some deadlines and stick to them yourself. So you will have to follow up on every email that you send, maybe follow up on Twitter. That's how I do it, because Twitter is very easy and not as distracting as an email. After that, you put together all those answers in a very unique format. And here I cannot stress that enough. Don't just list your questions and then answers. That's something that's very hard to read and follow, something very hard to get some value from as a reader. What I like doing is highlighting very good quotes, organizing those questions by subtopics, even doing a slide share presentation with all those questions to make sure it's easy to go through all of them. Maybe do some visuals, again, graphs, visual quotes, screenshots, everything that would help to make it a useful reading. Once you publish, you reach out to everyone who participated, thank them for participating, and ask for shares and commenting or whatever they want to do with the content. And you do all those recurring tweets to tagging people who participated so that they could be reminded of that project again and again in the future. All of that keeping in mind, again, once that project is live, you want to keep that relationship going. So you want to go ahead and retweet, communicate with those people on Twitter, make the friends on Facebook, whatever works for you. But the point is that next time you have a project, you already have those connected people that are ready to help you.
Have you found, are you using any special tools to manage all of these relationships? You know, you do one, that's fine, but as your list of experts or the folks that you've quoted gets bigger and bigger, how do you manage that on an ongoing basis?
I've tried a few tools. The easiest way is to use your customer relationship management platform, but just have a separate section for people that are not probably your customers, but the influencers that you want to influence your customer. I'm using SalesMate, which is a very nice platform, but there is also, I think, Hotspot just came out with a free version. Just Google for it. And it's a nice platform where you can keep all the contact information, keep all the notes organized by projects. Hey, this is that one I did in 2016. This is how it's called. And this is how they wanted to participate. And this is how it went. So all those notes, it takes some time at the beginning, but then when it's part of your flow, you will get a hang of it, and it will be easy if you come up with a good tool.
So one of the questions I've got on here, and I think it must have come in through our research, which was, do you need a collaboration agreement? I didn't even know that there was such a thing as a collaboration agreement. Is there?
Probably in some industries, it's more important than in other industries. I don't like making relationships that official. Maybe I'm not that modern. Maybe if it's a law industry or insurance industry or some financial industry where people need to spell out that's not official advice or something, maybe that's something to look into. I don't have any experience with making those agreements. And frankly, if I'm an influencer and I'm invited to collaborate, to help basically someone working on content, and the next step I get that huge agreement that I have to sign, I would probably be somehow put off. So that's, I think, could be hurting a relationship rather than helping. Again, not maybe some industries would make sense, but nothing that I've ever dealt with.
Okay, so let's play a game. We're going to call this very, very creative and fun game, Do's and Don'ts. Because I have run into a variety of different kinds of collaborative content. Some I like and some I'm not sure I like. So now my question is for you. What are some of your favorite types of collaborative content? What types of collaborative content do readers like to read and collaborators like to collaborate with, and you get like great results? Is there such a thing?
So 2 tricks. First of all, tool lists. Everyone loves tools, and it's ideal collaborative project when you ask 50 people to provide their favorite tool and explain it. And then to make it a more useful read, you create a leaderboard and of all those listed tools. If someone would list 3 times a tool, it would make to that leaderboard. It's always a very useful, easy to read article, and it's always very well received by influencers because everyone likes sharing tools and reading about tools. One of the best people in our industry who does those collaborative lists of tools is Robbie Richards. Google this name and you will find his blog, and you will see a few of his collaborative projects listing those tools done very well. He also uses affiliate links and disclaims that. That's how he is able to monetize those collaborative projects. So it's a very smart way to do that too. Another way to get a good response, but it doesn't have a very it's not very long-term project to do, is to react to some very fresh news in your industry. As an example, we had at some point we had the Google authorship project canceled by Google. So I reached out to 10 people in my industry and asked them for their opinion and where the industry is going from there. And I posted an article within that week. So the turnaround should be very fast. That's something to keep in mind. And that went very well because everyone wanted those opinions, and everyone wanted to see, hey, where are we going now? So this is something to learn from. And one example of a very well done collaborative project, Google for David Bain. What he did was at the turn of 2016, he did a collaborative project with, I guess, 100 influencers in SEO industry. Every one of us had to share one quick tip of what they're going to do in 2017 in terms of digital marketing. Mm. It was all Facebook Live, so I had my time slot where I had to come in, log in to the video and share my quick piece of advice, and then I could leave. And it was like maybe 4-hour live event or something. What he did after that, he sliced it into video series. Then he turned all of those videos into podcast episodes. And also, he then put all those tips in writing and created a hardcover book that he was selling throughout 2017. So many content assets coming out from one huge event, and he got exposure on Facebook during the live event. He got exposure from all those YouTube and podcasts, YouTube videos and podcasts, and finally he was able to monetize that through a huge book listing all those tips, not in the order they were coming, not by the name of the industry expert who shared it. He broke them into categories. Here is what they suggested to do with your content. Here is what they suggested to do with your social media marketing. So all those categories to make it actually readable and useful content asset.
Oh my gosh, that was great. I got list tools, react to fresh news, then the mega project with 100 influencers.
Yes, the mega project is usually a 1-year event. So don't try to do too many of them, but one thoroughly planned event a year with lots of people who collaborate with you on that project should be a great idea.
That is an outstanding idea. And the other thing that I really like about what you said is I think lots of people do big projects, but the very thing that I don't want anyone to miss is that it was a very, very simple ask. your quick tip of what you're going to do in the next year. That's it. It wasn't like all over the place. It was like, I guess, targeted towards SEO and then one quick tip. Is that correct?
Easy to do, useful to follow, very nice for all the participants too, because we were able to connect to each other too through that Facebook event, and that helped me build new connections in the industry too. So for all those participants, there is a value too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about how not to do collaborative content, because managing a collaboration around a piece of content does take a lot of time and a lot of effort. So what are some things not to do?
One thing I already mentioned, a huge mistake people do, they try it once, they see great results, and they try to do it every month after that, or every couple of weeks. You need to understand that it's huge effort, and you need to approach it the proper way. So it's not like quickly putting all those tips together, bam, 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 it's published. No, it should be something, because your readers will be very easily bored with that format if you keep continuing doing this, and your participating influencers will be irritated too if you keep coming up to them even every 2 months. I'm sorry, but I have very huge amount of all those requests to participate, and I cannot do that every month for you in particular. I mean, not you, Mana, but
well, if I asked you every single month for something,
yeah, probably
eventually
I will be forced to say, let's probably wait another month or so, because I'm very busy. So those people are busy too, and your readers will not like seeing the same format again and again, and you will lose the point somewhere in the middle of doing it too often. And I've seen that happen many times when people see the result and they try to do it every 2 weeks to see those numbers again and again. The project should be approached as a project. It should be several months for preparation, several months of promoting and keeping in touch with those who participated, at least a month of putting everything together, making those great graphics, and making sure that you do everything right. So it's a project. It should be a 1 year thing, or if you do something like reacting to recent use in your industry, it could be, the turnaround could be very fast. It's okay, but don't try to replicate that success again and again. So it's something that you cannot do as often as you would like to, and you will probably be burned out even if you're not alone. Next is, again, not doing enough to build up those connections. And again, I see it again and again. People get my contribution and they just forget that that ever happened. That's something that, I mean, I have no hard feelings, but it's a mistake. You need to make the most of those connections. Maybe come up with some sort of following up with those people. As an example, at Viral Content Bee, for our weekly guests, we have a separate Facebook group where we encourage them to join, and then we keep the calendar of future events, inviting them to join, not as a featured guest, nothing like that, but just keep in touch with them on a regular basis, asking if there is anything we can help them with. Maybe they have a new project they need some exposure with. Maybe they need some help with any of our platforms. Maybe they need some other kind of help. We are very open to getting in touch and helping each other. So that's something that not very many people do. And it's a shame, because that's a huge opportunity there. You build that valuable connection, and most of the people, like I asked David Bain, the guy who created that mega project for online marketing, I asked him, what is the biggest thing that you got from this project? And he said many influencers who participated came to me and said, you feel free to ask us for anything. There is no money that can buy that sort of relationship. And you have to keep that going because influencers are very busy people. They will forget about you unless you keep reminding them of it yourself. So this is another huge mistake that many people do when it comes to collaborating with anyone on any type. It's not that you saw that traffic spike from all those social media shares. It's not the point. The point is building those connections and keeping them going.
So let's turn the tables on that. What if you are asked to be a participant? You talked about, being asked to provide tips. I get these kinds of things. And I'm sure that many of the folks in our audience are experts in some area, in some industry where they too may be asked to contribute something. Now, one of my peeves when I read these roundups, and one of the things I typically do when I respond, knowing that there's going to be dozens and dozens of folks, I will often give like 2 or 3 or more responses because I want them to be able to pick one that's unique, right? One of my concerns is always that a lot of us will have the same answer. And so I want to have an answer that's unique or different or helpful or whatever. So I'll provide 2 or 3 tips. What are some other things that a contributor can do to make sure that they're featured in the best light, to provide good content?
The biggest tip that we give to our My Blog You contributors whenever they are approached with a request to contribute or whenever they want to help anyone is to use their own unique experience, because there's something that no one can have except you. You are unique. So if you don't have any experience with any particular topic, probably it's better to pass. There will be many more other projects that you will be able to participate. So focus on something that you can really contribute something unique. Also focus on your unique expertise. For example, my unique expertise, and it's funny story how I came up with it, is tools. I'm an expert in industry SEO tools because when I started blogging, I didn't know, I wasn't that sure in my writing, English writing capabilities. So my way out was to list lots of tools, to find them, research them, list them, compare them. So at some point I did such a good job that people say, hey, she's an expert in tools. So whenever I'm answering any expert roundup question, I try to come up with some relevant tool that solves the problem, and I make sure I share a screenshot of how it could help and some unique recipe how to actually work with this tool. So, and I'm always about providing actionable, very actionable piece of advice, but it's not necessarily anyone else's angle they would want to take. Everyone is unique, so come up with something that you feel is useful and unique from your experience and your expertise. I think that's how I've been doing that.
That's great. That is a great idea and a really, really good tip. So, So what if you wanted to collaborate with an organization or a brand? Have you done anything like that you can maybe give some tips or ideas about?
I usually, whenever I'm interested in a brand, I usually find people behind that brand and connect to them. Because we are people, we want to connect to people. I do one trick that I'm using. For example, I want to collaborate with, let's say, search engine land on some survey that I think they will be able to get more answers from me because they have that established readership and stuff. I wouldn't go directly to that website and fill in the form because that usually takes ages to hear back, especially if the brand is huge. I would go to LinkedIn and find business page, and LinkedIn is very helpful. It shows all the second tier, third tier connections that you can reach out to from that organization. The same thing is Twitter bias search. I use FollowOnk, that's Maz's property, and there is another one. I have no idea how to pronounce it. It's Triangulate.
Oh,
If you search bias search on Twitter, you will find my article somewhere there. It lists probably like 4 or 5 Twitter bias search. What it does, if many people, most people who work at say search engine land would list that search engine land word in their bio. So I'm looking for those people who actually work there, and I use Twitter bias search to connect to those people, and that's how I find people who can connect me to a right person within that organization and help me with whatever collaborative project that I have in mind. So that's my trick on how to collaborate with brands and businesses. Usually I have that workaround to finding people who can help me with that within that organization.
so speaking of finding people to collaborate with, you talked about how important it was to develop a relationship with the people, but what are some things you need to have in place already to be prepared to develop that relationship if you're going to reach out for a collaborative project with someone, especially an influencer or a brand or someone behind the brand?
One great trick that I've been using very successfully is using BuzzSumo search, but not just that, because I know there are many people who are aware of that search. There is a nice option within the search engine that you can click. You can filter all the search results to say only interviews or only guest posts. So these people who, that content that you find using those tricks means that those influencers are open to being part of interview, to guest post, which means they probably like going out there and contribute their tips somewhere else. A huge percentage of influencers are not that responsive. So you want to start searching for those who are already doing something like that or have experience in doing this. And that's where you go, and that's how you email them. I saw you did this. I saw you participate in this expert interview on this and that. And I have this idea on how we can collaborate, and this is how we can help each other. So this gives you a great background, not just it increases your chances to hear back because those people have proven to be interested in some collaborative projects, but also it gives you a good context to build that relationship upon and give you some a way to start that email outreach the way that it's not missed, deleted, or ignored.
So I think that that's outstanding. We all get pitched for these collaborations, and quite frankly, I will very rarely say no, especially if it's something easy and if it's, you can usually answer the question in like less than 5 minutes. So it's really not that big of a deal. So I think that that's fantastic. The question I have is, let's kind of talk about why people do these collaborative projects. Clearly, there's an SEO benefit, there's a link generating benefit. Since this is your area of expertise, I know it's not just about not being alone in the process. I think that there must be some real tangible benefits to your website property and to link building or whatever. Can you explain how that works?
Whenever you try, and I know there are a few very good case studies at my blog U on that, there is always a traffic spike, which is a very tangible, a very lucrative benefit of doing collaborative piece of content. So why does it happen? First of all, whenever you feature someone in your content, there is a good chance that person will share and spread the word. So that's where the traffic comes from. I've seen very new blogs, like a month old, doing this type of collaborative content like expert roundup, and they see like 300, 400, 600% increase in their traffic overnight. This is the most tangible benefit of doing those uh, expert roundups or even interviews with influencers. One thing that it also encourages you to overuse the tactic, which is something I already talked about. So stay away from that. But if you do things right, and how you do them right, you make sure that you keep those influences coming back to that content they created. How I do it, I schedule those tweets, tagging those participating influencers months ahead. So they will be reminded via Twitter notifications that hey, I participated in that. Why don't I retweet? Why don't I check it back? So this is a huge part of being shared a lot. You need to keep those influencers active, promoting that piece of content. That's usually where traffic comes. And with traffic, you will see if an influencer shares a content, it can get into other feeds. Like many of my expert roundups get featured on industry blogs as weekly news. And how do people find them? How will editors ever find that content unless it's shared by an influencer that they follow? So that's a good way to see links coming and shares coming, and with that you will see higher organic rankings, and higher traffic, which is something that I usually advise against focusing a lot, because that's how you get into the habit of doing that quickly and not spending enough effort on each one. But it's a very, very effective way to get even a new blog off the ground.
So let's talk a little bit about, and so having said that, we've been spending a lot of time talking about collaborative content as it relates to getting influencers and getting people who are participating in roundups and so and so. But there's so many other types of collaborative content, isn't there? I mean, of course, you've probably seen lots in My Blog You. So what are some other ways that folks can collaborate? So let's say if you do one quarter, you'll do a roundup of sorts, but like what if you wanted to do collaborative content like every quarter or once a month? What are some different things you can put in the mix?
What I've seen at My Blog You, and it's a very good thing to keep in mind, is building a downloadable ebooks. You can keep that project at My Blog You heading there and say something like this: I'm working on a PDF white paper or ebook, and I'll be updating it with your tips as they come. So I'm not closing the project. It will be continuing for as long as I'm getting those new tips, contributions, and stuff. And you do not publish a new thing every month or every week, but you keep that ebook updated. And there is your opportunity to send a new email to your email list, for example, saying, hey, I have just updated that white paper that is hanging on my site. Here is the updated copy. Go here and do this to get it, for example. So get your blog community engaged without publishing a new roundup again and again is another good idea. You can do regular expert interview, but not roundup is something that we are doing in Viral Content Bee, which it doesn't require as much preparation, but you do have to look for new guests every week, for example. And that's something My Blog You can also help if you keep that project heading. Hey, every week, that's how I find some of our Viral Content Bee guests too. I have that permanent project at Viral Content Bee saying, hey, this month we are looking for guests for January and February. if you know someone interested, or if you are interested, here is what you need to do to apply to be a featured guest, for example. So that's a good way to find those new people to feature and build connection with. Another good idea is I've seen people repurposing those expert roundups in other formats. For example, I participated in expert roundup on e-commerce SEO. And a month after it was published, they created an animated um, GIF, but it's an infographic. So it's huge, listing all those tools and all those faces with who contributed, and it's also doing something, so it's animated. It's very, and they use that infographic to publish somewhere else off their site. So that's how they got more attention to their initial article too. Or you can do a video and then repurpose it into a podcast and then repurpose it into a blog post. So you don't have to invite more people to that, to participate in that project, but you can keep playing with the content that you already have. So all those interesting types that diversify your blog content without as much effort as one collaborative project.
That was great. If you saw me, I was writing stuff down. Because I think it's easy to default to some basic collaborative types of content, like we're used to seeing roundups, but there's, as you've just listed, so many other options that people can take. So it doesn't get boring. It doesn't get stale. Okay, so as we wind up, where do you see collaborative content going in the next year or so? How do you see things changing? Where do you see things going? How are we going to be stretched?
Well, first of all, I'm a bit worried about those expert roundups because they've been overused in some industries like ours. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel like probably Google will not do any penalty or anything, but I'll see fewer influencers participating in them in the next few years, because frankly, we get too many requests, and probably I do reply to everyone who I know. That's a big part of being a connection. So that's why you need to focus on those connections first, because that's how you get replies. If I don't know a person and I don't have time, I will probably think about replying later, but then I get distracted and forget about that. So the big part of those collaborative projects going on is to focus on connections and to make sure that you know the person who are replying to, or you know the person who you ask to help you. That's probably, it starts with making a connection. And that's something that is going to be more effective in the few years. More diversification in terms of content formats. And that's something that is affected. The whole content marketing is affected, not just this little part of it, because more and more people are able to create videos these days. When I started, a video was just for someone who is a videographer, who is a professional. And these days, everyone can put up a video. Anyone can invite an influencer to a video interview like this one. Everyone can stream videos to Facebook, Twitter. So those parts of collaboration, not just text, but everything, including audio, video, these will get even stronger, and that's a good change, I think, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to, even though I cannot afford as much time to doing videos these days, but that's something I'm really excited about. So you will see more and more video content, video interviews, and video collaboration in the next few years too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, like you said, a real challenge, because even with these, even though, let's say, for example, this interview is streaming live on Facebook right now, I don't think anybody would really want to watch this for an hour, right? Clearly what you'd want to do is pull together different experts with different things and create something together. So do you see, even with all the tools, and it always seems like, I don't know how to say this, it's almost like as time moves forward, and as you said, these roundups, expert roundups are going to go down. People want more video, but it's going to take more to create quality content that people are going to want to consume. Right. So on the one hand, you'll save on time because of the tool, but on the other hand, you'll be pushed into really creating higher quality. That will take some time. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, projects like I mentioned, a year project. So something you do once a year and you start planning 3 months ahead of time. That's probably something to look into these days. And the whole focus of content marketing is into long form content. It's something that you work. When I started, 300-word article was a great idea. And these days, long form content is better, is easier to rank, and is easier to get attention to. So it's something that collaborative content will be affected to. Something you need to think long term and to create something that stands out in the industry to get noticed. And then maybe break it down to some smaller pieces of content, but always think big, think long term, think something that never done before. Try to come up with new formats, something that's not as often used in your industry. That's how you stand out. Look at other industries. For example, if you're in real estate, look at what SEOs do, because they catch those trends very easily and think, hey, this is what I can do in my industry too. So look outside of your box. Try to come up with some long-term projects. And it's not just about collaborative content, it's about the whole content marketing industry as a whole, because these days it's very hard to get attention because there's so much content, there's so much to think about, and so the industry is moving so fast that you cannot just keep doing the same thing again and again.
And I think I can't think of a better way to sort of end our little time today, because as you were talking, I was sitting here thinking, what you really need is a really good community of like-minded folks who can really help you brainstorm some of these things, and have one idea feed on another. So before we go, if I could ask you to, on the video, give us the websites and the location where people can get help with collaborated sharing and content, and then you can tweet it out later so folks can follow.
Absolutely. So go to myblogu.com and just create an account. It's a totally free website, no strings attached. Create and look what other people are doing there, and try to ask a question. You will be amazed of how different perspectives you are missing in your industry these days. Another site is viralcontentbee.com. That's a platform where you already need content to get some benefit from. So if you don't have any blog and you're thinking about setting some up, you probably need to start with My Blog U, and then once you have something to promote, switch to Viral Content Bee and see how it works. If you already have a blog and you have some content to promote, go ahead, join Viral Content Bee. You will get those help immediately, so you don't have to wait weeks and months before you build your cloud to get some attention to what you're saying. You will already see people retweeting you, people mentioning your name in Twitter, people sharing your content on Facebook with their comments. So you will get the hang of it very fast, and you will feel much more motivated to move with your blog forward than you do now.
That's wonderful, because we can all use a little motivation. Absolutely. Because there's nothing more depressing than doing something and then seeing crickets on the back end, especially after you've worked so hard to get a piece of content done. So absolutely. And there you have another session of Bizapalooza Chat. Please remember to follow the hashtag, and you're going to want to watch the replay, and you're going to want to click through and take notes, because that's what I did. You're going to want to do the same. And so join us again every Monday on Bizapalooza Chat on Twitter and here on Facebook Live. And special thank you to our guest, Ann Smarty, who is our expert in collaborative content. Thanks for being here, Ann.
Thank you. Thanks again for having me. And I'm always honored to get an invite from you. So always. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's all for that.